In this video, I'm going to take you through some of my top mobility exercises, the ones that are going to help bulletproof your body. These are the ones that I use with my clients and myself. Let's jump in. First area of the body that we're going to address is going to be the mid-back, the thoracic spine. This is a problem area for so many people, and this can be related to things like shoulder issues, posture, so it's always almost 100% going to show up in one of my sessions and a client session. And I'm a big fan of even just body weight rotational moves here, right? You might have seen things like this adductor T-spine rotation, which on its own, killer exercise, right? You could do that one almost before any training session and get a positive outcome because it's just an area where a lot of us end up getting locked up and it gets us moving in that direction. But what you find with this exercise, the one I'm going to show you with the band, kind of supercharges it, and the other exercise in this video, is all of them are adding layers of intensity and forcing you to use more muscle with your mobility, because the real outcome for mobility is strength in range of motion, right? We want to get stronger in deeper ranges of motion, so why not think about like how can I progressively overload the exercise? So your setup is going to be very similar. I'm going to have one knee on a pad, preferably kind of right outside the hip. I'm going to try to go hand that's on the ground, pretty much right under my shoulder stacked, maybe even underneath the chin. And then from there, what I'm going to end up doing is I want to be far enough away from my band. And you can see I've got a pretty light super band. You don't need to go heavy here because you want to be able to move through the back. You don't want to be muscling it with just the upper body. But if I'm far enough away on this one, I get a little bit of that band pulling me through. Okay, so first off, getting far enough away that I get a little bit of this rotation under my arm. And then the key here, and you really got to coach and cue this one up, pushing through the hand. I'm going to initiate this by pushing through that right hand. The whole way, as I bring this band up and out, I'm driving through that down hand. And even if you just stay right there, boom, you're going to feel what feels like little mid-back muscles working right to the left side of the spine. And this one is not only going to open you up from a flexibility standpoint, but it's also starting to train our brain and our body to start use more of those muscles to actually open up the thoracic spine. And now we're going to take a look at the hips, another one of the most common areas that when it comes to warm-ups, a place where we probably could improve some movement and some mobility. I know definitely for myself, whether it's a client that's been sitting at a desk, doesn't matter. And one of those areas is really internal and external rotation. So you probably have done or seen some version of like 90-90s, and there are more passive versions like this which feel good, and then there's what I'm going to show you which is a lot more involved and is really going to force you to use the muscles more, because it's one thing, and that's great, it's one thing, static stretching, passive, for me to go through the range of motion. It's another thing for me to be able to control that range of motion. And to me, that's the end goal. That's what we want to get to. And I'll be honest, if I'm short on time for a warm-up and I'm doing a lot of lower body, I'll knock this out, this figure 4, 90-90 I'm going to show you, for maybe like 30 seconds per side, and my hips feel great. Like this alone, if my back's bothering me, sometimes I'll do this. So this one, honestly, I find myself doing a couple times a week for sure. So first thing is trying to get some version of what we call the 90-90 position, which means I got my hip right in front of my body. I got a little 90-degree bend at the knee, and then somewhere around 90 at the ankle. All right, and even if it's not perfect, it's going to be okay, but I'm trying to look on the back side to make sure I got that set up. Now, we'll say, if you're working with someone who's so tight, or you yourself can't really get in this position, you can actually put the butt up like on a couple pads, and sometimes that'll give you better spacing. But let's just assume we can get here to the ground. So there's two pieces to this. We're going to work on the front leg and the back leg, because here we got external rotation going on with your front leg, and on the inside, it's actually requiring a lot of internal. And I know for some of my clients, especially for me, the internal is actually the challenging piece for me to be able to control that. So first off, even just getting here, right, you can kind of push that leg into the ground, a little bit of isometrics just to get things fired up. And then from here, we're going to break it up really kind of into two moves. The first move, and the key on this, is you don't want to move from the spine. I'm trying to move from the hip. So this hand on the ground is totally fine, probably necessary. I'm going to reach right across, and you can see my hands coming out like right in front of my shin. I'm going to reach across my shin, and I've got enough weight here to help me, but I'm really trying to use this hip to control me down. And again, this is kind of where flexibility and strength meet with mobility. I'm going to force that hip to kind of control that range of motion, and then when I come back in, I'm going to go to this internal rotation work on the hip. All right, so again, there's a lot of pieces here. You got to go slow with this. And if you're like me, the first time I did it, you might be cramping up, especially on this back hip. I'm going to try not to let that foot touch the ground. And now when I come back in, key here, watch the knee. The knee touches, but the foot does not. That right there, that's internal rotation. Now, I'm about to cramp up just showing you guys right now. So this one's a tough one on the hips, but it's going to wake things up quick. So step number 1, reach across the body. All right, a little bit of support from that hand. Swing it around, and then try to touch the knee. You can kind of come forward if you need to, but not the foot. And as you're doing this one, I like to go through either time where you're just doing 30 seconds per side, or maybe around 8 to 10 reps. And then you kind of rest and come to the opposite side. And I'll be honest, if you cramp up a little bit on this one, good, that's okay. Usually that's an indication that those muscles are weak and we need to strengthen them. And then same thing, so I'll show you guys on this side as well. Getting into that 90-90 position, you want to aim kind of mid-shin as you reach across. Use that hand a little bit to reach, and then boom, try to sit up tall. When you're here, you don't want to crumple up in the core. We want stability. Tap that knee down, and then foot comes right back around. Boom. Tapping that knee down. And as you get more comfortable with it, you'll find you can kind of load this front leg up even more, where you really get over the top, and you're getting some strength in that front hip, and then bringing that foot back around. Even just one set, 8 to 10, pop up, get into some squats or something afterwards, and your hips are gonna be feeling nice. This one's all about the shoulders, and it's a great one for the shoulders, but it's a tough one too, much harder than it looks. And it's a good example of where mobility and kind of stability and strength come together, because it's about getting into a certain range of motion, but we got to be strong enough to control it. So when it comes to the shoulders, right, it's one of the most common areas of problem for so many people. We can do things like thoracic spine mobility, which is super helpful, but then the shoulder itself, right, it's capable of a lot of things. We've got this, external rotation, internal rotation, abduction, all the movements the shoulder can do. And so I find for a lot of people, just trying to get those things woken up, just kind of like we do for the hips with a lot of our 90-90 type moves, this could be something comparable for the upper body. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do. On this one, and right now, you can see I got one of these Hiko sticks. This is like for agility, but it's just something to hand back and forth. But over time, what you can do is you can actually weight this. You can use something that's like a 1.5, a 2.5 pound weight, small dumbbells as you get stronger here to get you stronger in this range of motion. But first off, we just got to be able to do the range of motion. So sometimes I'll even go and have clients just use their hands. And so key on here, I'm not that worried if the feet come up, but you're going to find oftentimes they will, because you're engaging all these muscles on the back side of the body. I'm mostly worried about the shoulders. So what we're trying to do here is really have the hands get as far back, almost like if you were getting arrested, which hopefully you don't know what that's like, back behind the hands. They don't care if you got the shoulder mobility, they're going to put you there. And then up top. And so it just makes it a little bit more fun having something to hand. And so on this one, what I'll usually do is maybe 5 per side. Try to lift up, try to stay off the ground the entire time. And the cue is try to keep the hands as far away. In the whole range of motion, I'm trying to keep them as far away from the ground as possible. And then nice and slow, even when I get up top, work to keep those babies up. And take your time, go 5 one way, and then boom, all the way back around 5 to the opposite side. And you're gonna get some other benefits. You get a little bit of low back, mid back work in there, but in general, you start doing that one for a couple of weeks and the shoulders are gonna be feeling much better. The world's greatest stretch, chances are you've done at least some variation of this, and it's an easy go-to when you're short on time, when you're not sure what to do, because it hits a lot of stuff. I'm gonna show you a different take on it and just a couple different pieces that I like most. And when I talk about the world's greatest stretch, this is oftentimes some variation of being in this long kind of lizard lunge, driving the elbow down, reaching up. There's a lot of stuff you can do here, but in general, it's a great one. You're getting some hips, you're tying the hips into thoracic spine, you're getting some shoulders. There's 2 pieces of it that I like most, mostly just because of our ability to load our body up this little way and add some intensity or really some tension to our warm-ups. So the first one is when we get down here into this big lunge position, all right? Rather than reaching up with the same side, which you're gonna find you got more range of motion with, what I like to do instead is actually keep the knee down, so have a pad down there, so it's a very similar position, and have that hand right inside, okay? And you're gonna lock yourself in. Now, when you do this, you're able actually to push in with that leg, and you get some tension, and this is gonna give you a little bit more intense T-spine rotation. So if you're looking to improve that thoracic spine, and the cool part is as you do it, you can feel that inner thigh and the adductor kind of driving against your arm. So you're getting this isometric here, and then opening up in the T-spine. And this is one that feels great for the shoulders and for the mid-back. And I'm gonna be honest, probably 80% of the time I get some sort of adjustment when I do this one. But hitting maybe 8 to 10 of those on one side, and then moving to the other. And then the other piece that I think is super helpful with this world's greatest stretch is going to be actually the hamstrings. A lot of people talk about having tight hamstrings, and there's no doubt there's a big relationship between sensation of tightness and being weak in this area. And so what this one does is while we're in this deeper stretch position, going out like you're trying to lock that leg out, put some load into that hip and that hamstring. And so not only are you getting a pretty significant stretch in the hamstrings, but I find like transfer over, your body's got to learn to control itself in that position as well. So just those two pieces of the world's greatest stretch. Try using that inside hand and then focus on trying to get maybe 8 to 10 of those little hamstring flosses. When you're trying to improve mobility in the hips, two things to keep in mind. Adductors, right, the inner thigh, this is an area that's oftentimes neglected and underutilized, and also isometrics. And this move, this lateral lunge glide, has both of those. So first off, I find myself personally, when it comes to lower body training, squatting, whatever it is, the more that I've been able to work on trying to open my hips up from like a frontal plane standpoint, being able to get better movement side to side, the deeper my squat has gotten, and generally the stronger I feel in those deep positions. But for a lot of people, right, like this isn't the most common move in the gym. So you get a lot of people here initially, and this thing is super tight. But when it comes to mobility and flexibility, your nervous system, your brain, is regulating a lot of that initially. And so I find this is a really good move that literally within the actual exercise, you can see the mobility increase. And the key here, at whatever depth you can get, try to keep the feet flat, toes forward, and I'm gonna keep one leg locked out and straight, kind of like a lateral lunge. And I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna pull myself in, hold it for a second, and then instead of coming up and out to the opposite side, I wanna think, and I'm gonna age myself for a second, like a typewriter. And I don't even know if you guys know what that is anymore, but a typewriter, you know, sliding right across. Because what we're doing is now we're not coming up out, we're maintaining tension, and I've gotta actively kind of pull myself down through. And what you'll find is oftentimes like rep by rep, you'll be able to see people kind of sink into that hip a little bit more. And some of that's because when I'm here, even just for a couple seconds in that isometric, it's telling my nervous system that, hey, it's okay. You can be here. You can go a little bit deeper. And all of a sudden, as you keep pulling yourself down in, next thing you know, you're maybe like an inch, 2 inches deeper than you were before. So those lateral lunge glides, real easy one just to knock out, 5 to 8 reps per side. And over time, again, you'll find you can load this with a dumbbell, and all of a sudden, some of this mobility almost starts to look like strength training. If you're gonna train with enough intensity long term, you gotta spend some time thinking about the ankles and the calves, and especially if you're like me or a lot of my clients and you're still trying to do some fast twitch work, some jumping, maybe some running, sprinting, whatever it is, the ankles and the calves are really important. But it's also an area that when it comes to static stretching and foam rolling, I find it's really tough to see increases in. And so I've just moved to doing a lot more active ankle mobility, which really kind of blends into just like strength training and calf raises. So I'll show you super simple, but my favorite one, which I just call like a sprinter's angle calf raise. And so the key here, and the reason this is a nice one, is it kind of combines getting into like our static stretch position, nice stretch position of the calf, and then forcing it to work through the full range of motion, which when it comes to flexibility is really what we want. So especially if you're gonna be doing some squatting, right, which requires a lot more ankle dorsiflexion, this is a great one. So get into a position wherever we need to be able to keep that foot flat. I want the foot pretty much forward as well, and I want the hips in line with the shoulders. So as much as I can, kind of creating a straight line of the body. So like right there, calves are a problem for me. I can feel a pretty nice stretch. And then what I'm gonna do from here, and you gotta have the strength to be able to do it, is I'm gonna lift that leg, so it kind of looks like we're in like a sprinter's position, like acceleration. I'm gonna get all the way up as high as I can, and then I'm not just gonna drop down, I'm gonna like pull myself back down. I'm gonna almost use like the front of the shin, the anterior tibialis, to pull myself back down in. And so as I'm doing that, I'm making sure at the bottom I get that good deep stretch position on the calf. Now this is one, a lot of people are pretty weak here, so if you do these and you can't quite get it, feel free. Get that deep stretch, use the other foot a little bit. Get up top, slow, do the eccentric, full deep stretch, use the other foot to assist you, get all the way back up to the top. And a couple things you can do on this one. First off, your goal should be to be able to work up to like 10 to 15 per side, which is pretty tough. And then the other thing is, if you want a deeper stretch, if you got good mobility, you can put that foot elevated up on something small, so you kind of get almost like you're off the edge of a step, getting that deep stretch. So not only one that's gonna be great for ankle mobility, but I find if you're gonna get out and do some lower body training, you're gonna get out and do some speed, some agility, some sprinting, whatever, this one's gonna get you ready.